There's something to be said about Hollywood's pedigree when it comes to romance films. Over the last 30 years alone, countless titles have become cultural landmarks. Stories so embedded in our shared memory that people still reference them decades later. Audiences still debate whether there's enough room for both Jack and Rose on that wooden door in Titanic, or recall the iconic Kiss in the Rain from The Notebook. Films like Jerry Maguire, Sleepless in Seattle, The Proposal, and La La Land remain widely known, widely quoted, and widely loved. But these stories are not just emotional spectacles. Romance aside, they teach. They teach us what to expect from life. They teach us where meaning, contentment, and belonging are supposed to come from. And I would argue that they often do this in a way that causes more harm than good. In short, modern Western romance films train us to expect happiness to arrive through circumstances, specifically when things line up. Whether it's timing, geography, career, or past relationships, love succeeds or fails based on forces we don't really control. Fate becomes the silent author. And while that makes for a powerful drama, it offers very little guidance for people trying to live well in their own lives. Into this landscape enters The Garden of Words, directed by Makoto Shinkai. With a runtime of just 46 minutes, it's a remarkably dense film, one that accomplishes more than many full-length romances. Unlike the circumstantial stories common to Western cinema, The Garden of Words presents a vision of love that doesn't offer an escape from life, but a way to inhabit it rightly. The film follows two characters, Takao, a 15-year-old student who dreams of becoming a shoemaker, and Yukari, a 27-year-old teacher struggling with deep disorientation and despair. For Takao, his dissatisfaction is rooted in his circumstances. School feels flat and colorless to him, a world of mere obedience and confinement. Adulthood, by contrast, represents freedom and meaning. For Takao, the good life exists somewhere else, and later. Yukari, however, is already living in the world Takao idealizes, and she is even more miserable than he. What was promised as fulfillment has become hollow and cruel. Takao longs for the future. Yukari fears the past. Though oriented in opposite directions, both make the same mistake. They anchor their hope for contentment in circumstances. This is where the garden enters the story. Whenever it rains, both Takao and Yukari skip school and make their way to a quiet spot in a public garden. It's where they first meet, and where they continue to meet throughout most of the film. At first, the garden functions as a refuge. Takao sketches shoes, and Yukari reads poetry and consumes the only two things she can still taste, namely beer and chocolate. The garden appears to be another escape from ordinary life, a place where reality loosens its grip. Just as importantly, the garden establishes a rhythm. Their meetings aren't freely chosen, they're permitted by the weather. They only see each other when it rains. The rain then becomes the condition that allows connection to happen. At this point, it would be easy to assume that meaning lives in that condition. But the Garden of Words refuses to allow that assumption to stand. And instead, it quietly redirects everything through a tanka, or poem, that Yukari recites to Takao during their first meeting. She says, "Faint clap of thunder, clouded skies, perhaps rain comes, and if so, stay with me?" At first glance, this sounds familiar. Connection allowed by alignment. Intimacy made possible by condition. The rain appears to be the reason the relationship exists at all. But the poem is left unfinished. Later in the film, Takao responds and completes it, saying, "A faint clap of thunder, even if rain comes not, I will stay here, together, with you." With this reply, the film overturns its own premise. The rain is no longer the reason for staying, it becomes irrelevant. What matters, instead, is fidelity, the willingness to remain even when the condition that once allowed connection disappears. This is where the film's moral shift is fully cemented. To see how different this is, it helps to compare it to La La Land, a film I actually like. I enjoy the music and numbers, the choreography, and the fact that it resists a forced happy ending. Like Takao and Yukari, La La Land's Sebastian and Mia are animated by a longing for happiness that is rooted in vocation. Mia wants to be an actress, and Sebastian wants to open a jazz club. Their shared pursuit of these dreams is what initially brings them together. But as the film shows, that same pursuit is also what pulls them apart. In the end, both choose their dreams over the relationship. And the film's What If epilogue makes the message clear. Happiness depended on circumstances aligning. Their separation wasn't a moral failure, it was a logistical one. Timing didn't cooperate. Life didn't line up. In short, La La Land teaches us to mourn a world that didn't work out. The Garden of Words, by contrast, teaches us how to live in the world we actually have. That's why it's essential that the romance in The Garden of Words does not resolve as a solution. Had Takao and Yukari ended up together, it would have undermined everything the film was building toward. Romance as a resolution would only reinforce the idea that contentment depends on circumstance. Instead, both characters grow because they learn how to walk again, how to live well without guarantees. There is a way to pursue dreams without making them the source of satisfaction. And whether the rain comes or not, the film calls us to remain, to live faithfully within the life we've been given. The goal is not escape from the extraordinary, but to dwell within the ordinary, the common and the mundane.